So it's now confirmed that Rahul Dravid will in fact be in charge of the Indian cricket men's senior team for, well, an unspecified period really, because again the BCCI did not announce the tenure or the length of his new deal, but Rahul Dravid is in fact going to remain in charge, whilst there was in fact a belief that he would be moving on from his role because his contract had come to an end after the ICC World Cup final. And there was plenty of talk about VVS Laxman, who's currently the director at the National Cricket Academy and in fact has stepped in for Rahul Dravid as a caretaker coach whenever Dravid has opted out of tours, would be getting that spot instead. However, all of those media reports have now been proven, well, let's say inaccurate in hindsight, because the BCCI chose to stick with the tried and tested, and that is to keep Rahul Dravid as the head coach, not just of the Indian team, but the Indian team across formats. But did you know that they were actually mulling trying something rather radically different, not just taking away or not just giving the coach's role to VVS Laxman, but actually going the way of a split coaching model, something that until this point in time has never happened with the Indian team before, and it very nearly happened. That's the thing. It was in fact, at least if reports are to be believed, the BCCI's first choice. So what exactly has happened and why exactly did the BCCI choose to go this route? That's what we're going to be talking about in this particular video. Let's first talk about the one thing that had made news earlier in the day, and that is the fact that Dravid will in fact be remaining the team's head coach. That in itself was in many ways a bit of a surprise, because again there seemed to be no indications that Dravid would be staying on in the role. In fact, him staying on is something of a U-turn from his original stance, because again it was widely accepted that he would walk away from the coaching role once his tenure ended. In fact, there were plenty of credible reports linking him to IPL franchises, either as a mentor or potentially a head coach, and the BCCI had begun to scout for replacements. And in fact, we had done a video earlier as well where it was said that Laxman, he had already spoken to the BCCI top brass, he'd flown to Ahmedabad to speak to them, so it seemed like a formality that Dravid was going to be out and Laxman was going to be coming back in. But what changed? Well, one of the things that did change was that the BCCI wanted to actually implement a multi-coaching model, and we'll get to that in just a bit. But let's first talk about why it is that Laxman was the first choice. Now, of course, has been the caretaker manager, director of NCA, the same role that was held by Dravid before, let's say, he stepped up to be the coach of the Indian team. But what the BCCI reportedly wanted was a split coaching model, because yes, Laxman was in fact the BCCI's first choice, but that wasn't necessarily the case for all formats. They wanted Laxman as the head coach in the tests and ODIs only. They wanted a different coach for the T20I setup, which when you think about it makes a lot of sense, because they've been going in this new bold direction as far as T20I cricket is concerned, bringing in a lot of younger untried players at the international level, try to change their template, bring about more fearlessness in their cricket. A new head coach in that format would have made a ton of sense, especially when you consider who exactly was the man that they had in mind for taking up that role. Yes, the role was in fact offered to none other than Nehra ji, aka Ashish Nehra. Now, Ashish Nehra has become, let's say, popular among certain cricket fans for the fact that alongside then Gujarat Titans skipper Hardik Pandya, he masterminded not only a title win in the franchise's first season, but also led them to the finals and their second year of asking. Nehra was seen by many as someone who's a very thoughtful cricketing, mind. He's someone who definitely was invested a lot in the game, and he was, of course, sought out by the BCCI. The key reason why they ended up not going in that direction was because Nehra himself wasn't very interested in taking up the role, and it's easy to understand why. Being a head coach of an IPL team is pretty much a 2-month or 2.5 month job at this point in time. Being the head coach of the Indian cricket team, even in one format, will require you to do an awful lot of travelling, something that Nehra may not have been keen on. He instead chose to stay on with the Gujarat Titans, and because of that, it is fair to believe that if they had gotten Nehra on board as the T20I coach, and then they would have moved forward with appointing Laxman as the Test and ODI coach, you may very well have seen a split coaching model. And not just that, you may very well have seen also wholly different approaches and a first for Indian cricket. Again, Previously in the history of the game, you've never had split coaches. You always had one coach, and this is especially true at a time when, of course, you see the number of formats began to increase. You would always have one for tests, then of course one for tests and ODIs. Ever since T20I cricket has come into the picture, you've seen many teams kind of move away from, let's say, having just one coach. You've seen England do it very successfully in recent times. Other teams have also experimented with it. India going that route, though, seemed very unlikely until very recently. However, Nehra's refusal ensured that the board went back to Rahul Dravid, kept him as well as the rest of his coaching staff on, and well, that's all she wrote. But it is pretty interesting to think that India could very well have ended up with a split coaching model similar to what the likes of England have done. Would you have been interested in such a model? Do you think it's something that would make the Indian team successful? You can let us know that in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap the bell icon, leave us a comment, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Don't forget to download the Sportslick app, and if you're already on the channel, go ahead, check out some other videos we've done, and stay tuned. We have plenty more coming your way through the day. For now though, from my side, it's goodbye.